While we're on the topic of cardio and women,
Yeah.
is there do you have a preference for high intensity interval training or steady state?
Both have their place. One issue, you get into that cortisol release issue, and cortisol does go up more with the higher the intensity. It can have benefits as far as reducing muscle glycogen. It's kind of a matter of degree. Of course, too much low intensity work will raise cortisol just fine. Depends on the deficit. Like I said, women do have to do more than men. And like I said, smaller women, at the end of the diet, you can only bring food intake down so much. Well, if you need to create a further deficit, what do? But a lot of it, to avoid the problems, is to bring it up gradually. This is the other big mistake I see women making. Okay, time to diet. Hour hard cardio a day. And the whole hormonal system gets wrecked within 5 to 7 days. Like, it can literally shut down that quickly. And so, yeah, I think both are beneficial. People got way too involved in high intensity training, high intensity intervals, and now we're swinging back to kind of a happy medium.
Yeah.
I've written some stubborn fat protocols to kind of help get over the resistant lower body fat that uses intervals. Women are more sensitive to all this stuff. If they try to combine too big of a deficit, too much cardio, too much high intensity interval training, they tend to break. I think even more so than men. I mean, everybody tends to crack, but women's bodies just respond very negatively to that. So yes, and again, like I said, depletes muscle glycogen, that's good. But if they're already training legs heavy a couple times a week, it just has to be synchronized to be effective.
Do you think one could make the case that, given that women have generally higher work capacities, at lower intensities, that they might be better suited for steady state than, say, high intensity? Or
yeah, and I think, and I've seen that argument made, is that women are probably relatively more, they are more enduring, right?
Yeah.
Getting way off topic.
Yeah.
In most performance sports, women are about 10% behind men, and again, most of that's muscle mass. That really explains most of it. But there are a couple exceptions, and one of them is in ultra endurance sports. Anything past about 50 kilometers, women actually perform better than men, and it's because they use more fat for fuel, so they don't bonk. They're more reactive, so they don't get as much muscle fatigue. They don't do as much muscle damage. Like, I think in a very real way, women's bodies are probably more optimized for that. It's just too much of it in the face of too few calories does tend to wreck hormone levels. So it has to be a happy medium. And I've written about this before. You use a big deficit, a lot of cardio, but not both at the same time.
Right.
Again, if we're at the end of a diet, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Something has to keep the deficit going. It needs to happen gradually. You have to give the body the breaks every once in a while. A lot of people turn low intensity cardio into very middle to high intensity. Endurance athletes have done this for years. You end up working at a fairly high level, and it's just too much for the system to handle. Like, low intensity needs to remain low intensity, which is pretty much like piss ass. It's less, and it doesn't burn a lot of calories, but it's just to avoid overstressing an already stressed system.